Do you think that many people have a concern that EU as a whole system is democratic or not, or is it transparent or not? What are your views on it?
I'm openly Eurosceptic. I do not like a lot of things about the European Union. I don't like the way that people do not know who their members of European Parliament are. Nobody I know knows who their MEPs are. There's no accountability or no responsibility where MEPs are concerned. They don't know who their constituents are, their constituents don't know who they are. Whereas an MP in the House of Commons, everyone knows who their MP is, and the MP knows who their constituents are. There's accountability and responsibility. The European Parliament moves for 1 week in a month to Strasbourg from Brussels. The whole Parliament moves. It is ridiculous. What a waste of time and money. Can you imagine if we here in Westminster had to move to Scotland every month for a week or to Ireland every month for a week? It would be ridiculous to do that. The fact that the euro is an absolute disaster. One size cannot fit all. Thank God we didn't join the euro. Schengen, I used to think that Britain lost out on tourist and business visas by not being a member of Schengen. Now, because of the migration crisis and security reasons, we are fortunate not to be in Schengen. So, whichever way you look at it, the European Union has a lot that is wrong with it.
But still you want to...
But in spite of all that, I still believe we should remain as part of the European Union. And of course, you hear the argument that the European Union tells us what to do, and all our laws are formed by the European Union, and all the red tape that comes to the European Union, that is an absolute hindrance to our business. Well, let me tell you as a businessman, these Brexiteers who talk about all this have never run a business in their life. Let me tell you, which business has Boris Johnson ever run? Which business has Michael Gove ever run? And they talk about red tape in business. I can assure you, I built Cobra Beer from scratch, not thinking about red tape from the European Union every day. I was able to build it because we actually have one of the most open economies in the world over here. And we have the #2 inward investment in the world right here in the UK because we're an open economy. The hurdles that you face as a business person are not European Union red tape and regulation. The hurdles here are our own homegrown regulations, red tape, like our tax. Our tax system is so complex, every year it increases. Our tax code is thousands of pages. That's nothing to do with the European Union, that's our own taxation. Our planning laws, our housing laws, that's all our own, nothing to do with the European Union. So this is absolute nonsense. Yes, there is some of the red tape we don't like, but it doesn't stop us from being successful. And then they say, well, all the laws are made by the European Union. That is, again, absolute nonsense. In reality, we do what we want to if we really want to. So, we're part of the European Union, but we're not part of the euro. We will never join the euro. We're part of the European Union. We're not part of Schengen. We will not join Schengen. So where is our loss of sovereignty? And do we measure our roads in kilometers? We measure them in miles because we choose to. The European Union cannot tell us to do that. So where is our loss of sovereignty? This is absolute nonsense.
I got this leaflet actually today when I was coming out of my office, and it says that EU laws EU has a authority to overrule UK's laws. Do you believe that?
Again, in practical terms, that is absolute nonsense. Our parliament is always sovereign. At the end of the day, we can do whatever we want to. And I've given you the fundamental examples that in terms of United States of Europe, there's a scaremongering that, oh, it's going to be further unification and there's going to be a United States of Europe. Believe you me, there will never be a United States of Europe. And if there is one, we're not going to be a member of that United States of Europe. A European army, we have our own independent army. We're not going to join any European army. We're part of NATO. So again, there's a scaremongering that, oh, our army is going to be subsumed into European Union army. This is nonsense. When it boils down to it, this country does what it wants to. Europe can never, ever tell us what to do. I don't know what world these Brexiteers are living in if they don't realize the fundamentals.
Another thing basically says that EU costs us around £350 million a week, which is enough for building a new NHS hospital every week. And we get less than half of this money back. Your comments on it?
This figure of £350 million a week that we contribute to the European Union is such a misleading figure. What about the fact that the £350 million is a gross figure? We get money back from it. The net figure is £150 million a week. We actually contribute just over £8 billion a year to the European Union. That's the actual figure. And
European Union basically it's a slowly dying bloc when we join it, our trade basically is around 67%. Like now, basically, it's only around 43%. So they said basically, what is the point of joining it, which is already in declining state, and they are and why can't basically like Switzerland and Norway, which are not in the EU, but they are still basically prospering much higher. For example, Switzerland GDP is almost double than UK's.
Again, these comparisons are so misleading. As part of the European Union, we're part of a 500 million strong area. It is the biggest trading bloc in the world. If our percentage of trade with the European Union as a percentage of our overall trade has declined, it's because we're also doing business with other parts of the world which have been emerging since the European Union started. The rise of China, the rise of India, the rise of Asia, all that is happening. So of course we will be doing business with those countries as well as the European Union. As in a percentage of trade, the European Union will fall. That does not mean that the European Union, it still isn't right now as we speak, 50% of our trade, 44% of our exports, 55% of our imports are with the European Union. Now, even if that's declining, that's a huge figure. And we can't just run away from that figure. If we were then to be out of that trading bloc and to start paying duties and all the bureaucracy involved in dealing with that bloc as opposed to the free way that we deal with it now, which dream world are these people living in that we want to forego 50% of our trade right now in a free way that we have? So I think, again, this is absolutely nonsense. And from the European Union's point of view, we are only 8% of the exports for the whole of the European Union. So we're important to the European Union, but actually, the European Union is really, really important to us. And there's no, even if it's declining, you can't run away from it. It's not either or. We have to do business with the emerging markets, and we have to do business with the European Union, and we're lucky to have access to both. And the other very important point, the whole world, and I will say the whole world, I mean the whole world. I've spoken to world leaders around the world. I've spoken to business leaders around the world. It is unanimous, whether it's America, whether it's India, whether it's European countries, they all say 100% unanimously, you would be foolish to leave the European Union. People don't realize that Britain is the second largest recipient of inward investment in the world. Second largest recipient of FDI in the world. Now, if we're going to suddenly leave the European Union, all these countries that invest into the UK, who've told us don't do it, are they just going to say, oh, well, we don't care if you don't listen to us? Are they going to carry on investing in us? Of course, it's going to affect our economy. Next, 60% of the countries around the world who are not members of the European Union have their European Union headquarters in the United Kingdom. If we leave the European Union, are they going to carry on having their headquarters in the United Kingdom? Of course they're not. So wake up, Brexiteers. It's going to hit us badly, and you can't just not listen to the rest of the world.
Do you think, is it possible that to come out of the EU and still basically being able to have a trade with them?
Of course we can have trade with them, but it's a question of on what terms. And this is the other complete misnomer. Oh, the European Union is a failure. There's 50% youth unemployment in certain countries, 40% youth unemployment in certain countries. The European Union is going to fall apart. We should leave. Hang on. Let's look back to 2008-2009 financial crisis, which then led to the sovereign debt crisis, which then led to the Eurozone crisis, which then led to the fact that the Euro is a failure and Europe has been in crisis, and then the migration crisis as well. What has happened in the meantime to the UK? We have actually got our act together, and we are one of the fastest growing economies in the developed world, in spite of the European Union being in such a bad way. So we're the fifth largest economy in the world in spite of and because of the European Union. And we want to leave now because of something they're scaring us about the future. It's happening as we speak, and we're still doing really well. So I don't want to risk it by leaving everything when we are the fifth largest economy in the world while being part of the European Union.
Do you think that EU regulations basically are adding a cost for doing business? For example, I was going through some of the reports. They said that there are around 450 laws basically which governs about the use of the towel, a bathroom towel, around 30 laws basically for toothbrush.
Let's get realistic. If you want to start picking holes on little regulations, by the way, we're such a great nation, we gold plate some of the European Union regulations, which we don't have to do. on a day-to-day basis, these are not the things that affect the success of business.
Lord Bilimoria, thank you very much for your time.